Welcome to Margin of Thought, where we make space for the questions that matter. I'm your host, Priten, and together we'll explore questions that help us preserve what matters while navigating what's coming. My guest today is Nate Otey. Nate and I have been friends since we met almost a decade ago when we worked on a common project. He now teaches ninth grade humanities, statistics, and calculus at a small religious K-12 independent school. The school has deliberately chosen a low-tech approach. What's striking is that the students and parents seem to want this. We'll explore what happens when a school community decides that relationality matters more than connectivity, why friction in human relationships might be essential rather than something to eliminate, and what it means to teach in a context where the default isn't optimization, but formation. Nate and I are always asking some of the same big questions, so let's see what Nate is thinking about today.
I'm very fortunate. I guess to give you my context from my school, we are kind of like retrograde in that we have Chromebooks, but we don't use them that often. Most of our instruction happens like just the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
When I teach ninth grade humanities, we occasionally watch videos in class, but I don't think last year I had them use laptops at all. I might have done a couple activities on Desmos in stats. I don't think I had my calc students using devices ever. I would sometimes use like a Desmos thing on, of course, they're using their graphing calculators, but I would sometimes like illustrate concepts with Desmos and I would send them links to like Khan Academy or that kind of thing. But
Right.
not much device use happening in the school. We've banned phones for up to 10th grade, and actually, we're talking about whether we'll ban them for the 11th and 12th graders as well. So we have been very earnest about the kind of like device concerns that you're describing, following a lot of like Jonathan Haidt basically and the kind of
Yeah.
I mean he laid it out really clearly and persuasively in a couple of different books. We've had sort of training of the parents. We've had people come in and talk to the parents about this, and the parents are very on board. So theoretically, we're going to double down on it next year. This year was our first time experimenting with having the ninth and 10th graders turn in their phones at the beginning of the
Yeah.
school day. And of course, a lot of them weren't really doing it, and we weren't really policing it, but we know they still go to the bathroom and check their phones. But
Yeah.
we, by and large, I think this must be a total anomaly. When I'm teaching, I'm hardly ever confiscating a phone, and I'm
Yeah.
not catching the like quick glance at the phone kind of
Yeah.
thing. I think some of the kids really do just keep it in their locker or you just don't see it. And then even in the lunchroom and the gym, you hardly, I mean, I could be on lunch duty and walk in and like sometimes, there's a few like usual suspects who've got their phone out and I
Yeah.
confiscate. But first of all, when I confiscate it, they totally know and like I don't have like grief from them. They just like hand it to me because they know it's against the rules and they're like not gonna like argue with me about it. Second of all, the students seem to appreciate like which Jonathan Haidt has talked about is the students actually know it's bad for them and they sort of want you to take it. So if you
Yeah.
ask them
Yeah.
like, should we get rid of your phones? A bunch of them will say yes. Of course, some of them won't. And so anyway, I'd be sitting in the lunchroom, like on lunch duty, and just thinking, like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, most of these kids are just talking to each other right now. Like that's
Yeah.
all that's happening. Like they're not on
Yeah.
their devices. They're just talking like normal humans. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Or being in like the gym during middle school lunch, if I'm covering middle school lunch, they let the kids like after 15 minutes they can go play basketball in the gym. And it's like mayhem, but it's exactly what sixth and seventh and eighth graders should be doing, which is like running around like banshees in the gym, like throwing
Right.
basketballs at each other, but they're not on their phones. It's great.
Yeah.
Like some of them don't have phones. I think that must be pretty rare based on just what you just said and my general sense of things.
Yeah.
We have an IT director, and there's obviously like, they want to make sure that we have good projector equipment and good stuff in the school, but we're not obsessed with one-to-one, and we're definitely like pretty. It's not that we're opposed to using tech for teaching and assessment. It's just that we expect that the classroom is not based around that in any substantial way.
Yeah.
I found a few use cases where I did find it helpful to have kids on their devices, but kind of for the reasons you're describing, I've steered away from it just because I
Yeah.
know they're on their phones for 6 hours a day when they're not in the school building. We have pretty regular conversations with our students about it. I have conversations with my advisees, like I'm an advisor, which means I have like 8 10th graders that I talk to once a week.
Yeah.
And like half the time my conversation with them is like, how are you doing getting to sleep? And like the number one
Yeah.
factor of getting to sleep is like, did you put your phone away at 9 p.m.? But a lot of them have like healthy, like their parents are like they know that their phone doesn't live in their bedroom, right? Like they turn it in
Yeah.
at 9 p.m. or that kind of thing. So people seem pretty clued in to the kind of concerns about the phone addiction.
I quickly would want to learn a little bit more about the context of the students before they enter high school. So
Yeah.
are most of your students also doing middle school within your like within the build? Is it in the same building? Is it and
Yeah,
is that
it's a
yeah,
6 through 12.
yeah,
I think our incoming ninth grade class is going to be at least 80% people who were here in eighth grade.
got it.
We have some loss of people outgoing from eighth grade, and then we admit
Right.
some new students, but
Yeah.
and then there is a little bit of matriculation in 10th and occasionally 11th. I don't think we really ever let in somebody just for their 12th grade year. Maybe we do it occasionally.
Yeah.
But by and large, the pipeline is from sixth grade or seventh. Yeah.
And then how many students are there per like grade level?
About 40. Although they're
Okay.
trying to increase it slightly, but our building just is only so big and you have more problems with everything the more you do everything. But I think just
Right.
they are trying to scale slightly.
Yeah. And the parent buy-in, was that a cause or an effect of the school's approach? I'm wondering if like does the school do a lot of you did mention some parent outreach in terms of like helping them understand policy decisions that you all are making.
I
That's a
think
high level of buy-in. Like the taking
um,
the phones away at night, like all that doesn't seem just school
yeah, I think it's a
influence.
lot of parents who are already pretty tuned in. I mean, that's just the great privilege of teaching where we do because our school is distinguished by its culture, and that's what parents are paying for. Like,
Yeah.
we are a college prep school. We get kids into Ivies, somewhat regularly, and it's very academically rigorous. But parents are also willing to drive a long way and pay tuition because they believe in the mission and the culture of the school. So that means we've self-selected for parents who are really intentional, more so than just like a product, right? Like they don't just like drop their kid on our doorstep and say, get him into Harvard and complain if we don't.
Yeah.
They're here for the culture, and so they really care about their kids and they're invested. So, of
Yeah.
course, we have like trouble with some parents, like anybody, but by and large, the parents are really supportive of their students and also supportive of us. I think to answer your question, I think it's just the kind of people who would make sure their kids turn off their phones at 9 p.m. are the kind of people who send their kids to BTA.
Yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
and meanwhile, BTA is also focusing on that.
Right. And there's some positive reinforcement there. So I'm curious about now the students. Like you're right that like I think a lot of students know, I mean we all do, right? Like how bad the technology is first, and yet there's like a hard time fully navigating that relationship. What pushback are you getting from students, if any?
I haven't got really almost any pushback when I've confiscated a phone. My sense is that students, what they really hate is unfairness. So that goes for any rule. It could be uniforms or food or, cussing or whatever the rules are. If they feel like the rules are being enforced arbitrarily or unfairly, they hate it. But if their sense is that anybody will get their phone taken away, because the rule actually is enforced cleanly and uniformly, they tend to go okay with it. One thing we had to figure out a little bit this year is smartwatches. So
Yeah.
we had, I think the dean of students really handles this, but then the academic dean, who's also the IT director, I got in a couple of like arguments with students about their smartwatches because like they're going like this during class, and I came over and I tried to take their watch away along with their phone, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, 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 I was just checking the time, and I'm like, no, you weren't. You were.
Yeah.
But like a couple of times they were like they were students who like aren't like shady, and they were like, no, seriously, I was really just checking the time, and they like started to cry. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna like die on this hill. But so I think we need to just strictly ban the smartwatches. I think we are going to do that this year. There's no reason why
Yeah.
they can get a dumb watch if they need to know what time it is. And every room has a clock in it, but some of them don't know how to read a clock.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
like during
Yeah.
a test, they're asking me how much time they have left, and there's a big analog clock right there. And then like earbuds. So we're trying to the policy is that if they have an earbud in, I'm also taking their phone
Yeah.
because like the earbud's connected to the phone.
Right.
Like you're using your phone essentially. Same with
Right.
the smartwatch. So I think I'm pushing for just like no smartwatches. They don't need it.
Right.
There's something about like the cross country runners and the track runners might want to like track their data with their like during practice. So they're gonna have to figure that out. But and then there's some tricky issues that I don't know if they've resolved about. So the policy is supposed to be no phones in the building during the school day, but also even during like if it's after school and a student's still in the building, they're not
Yeah.
supposed to have their phones out. But then
Yeah.
what if they're staying for a basketball game? And then what if they're going to the basketball game? Are we really gonna like try to enforce it at the basketball game? So if I just want to go watch the basketball team, am I supposed to be like policing whether the students are on their phones? Because of course they are.
Yeah. Right.
And like, what am I gonna like do that during the basketball game? Like just because I
Right.
happen to be there. So
Yeah. I'm curious about pushback against like, are you hearing anything about like, oh, like, and this might be more from parents, but in some districts, the parents are like, why are you not using the technology when the technology is such a big part of the quote unquote real world? It sounds like you have a lot of parent buy-in, but do you get that kind of pushback from parents or students?
if we do, I haven't heard it.
Yeah,
But that might be self-selected by just the culture of the school. I
right.
think, when parents are like shopping schools and they discern what kind of school we are and what we're doing and what we're not doing, that they'll discern that we're not going to focus on teaching them how to use any of the tools. And so if that's what they really care about, they probably won't pick us. That's an interesting question. I mean, part of the school's stance on this has been, I mean, even before AI, has been a sense that the tools that they need to use, they'll figure out on their own. Like you didn't have to
Right.
teach anybody to use most of like Microsoft Word or Google or anything. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of figure it out.
Right.
So we need not spend instructional time like training on the tech because first of all, we just don't use that much, but second of all, the students will kind of figure it out when they need to, has been the sense. And things change quickly, right? So like we don't want to invest in like teaching this thing that's going to be obsolete soon. But as for parent pushback, I'm not really hearing it. I know what I would say if I got some. It's
Yeah.
something like, no one will be using this in 5 years anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, nice pithy way of pushing back against that and respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The AI conversation. I know when we initially spoke, there was like you and I spoke mainly about like some teacher usage of it and then like the student plagiarism angle. I'm curious on both fronts. Like, has there been like do you all as educators like use the technology in other ways outside of the classroom? And what is the like school's guidance or stance on that?
As far as the educators using it, there isn't like a lot of official guidance. We're not discouraged from using it. I think we've tried to have conversations about having a kind of heuristic of, am I using this in a way that I wouldn't, which is the same heuristic I want the students to have in mind, which is like, am I using it in a way where I wouldn't mind telling my students that I used it? So if I'm using it to grade their papers, and in such a way that I think they would feel like cheated somehow if they knew that I did that because I was representing it as if I had done something that I didn't. So that's the kind of heuristic I have in mind. And some of my colleagues don't use it at all. A lot of them are like very old school, but that's how I try to use it when I do. So like if it's like there's a video or I need some quick practice exercises or just some comprehension questions to like help the students track along, I'll ask ChatGPT and sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. But I wouldn't mind telling I don't always tell them that I like got this from ChatGPT, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
mind telling them because I don't think they'd be like, sure, that's fine. Like,
yeah,
these are 10 questions that like ask me about this 8-minute video that we watched in class. Whereas I do think they would mind if they knew that I just put their essays into ChatGPT and it gave me a score and some feedback for them.
yeah,
Even though I know it would do a good job with that, maybe better than me, right? But that would feel like it's breaking some kind of implicit contract with them that like they did the
yeah,
work to write it with their hand, and so I'm
yeah,
going to do the work to read it, especially because it's relational. Like I only have 14 Humanities 9 students, and we're in some kind of relationship here where I'm trying to help them with specific things on their writing and the way that they formulate what they're saying and articulate themselves. So I'm the one reading it, and it's my scrawled handwriting that they can't read, trying to give them feedback. I use it for tasks like that. I'm tutoring a lot this summer, and I found ChatGPT extremely helpful for rapidly generating grammar practice exercises. I'm teaching grammar to like three or four students. And if it's like, oh, what's a dangling modifier and how do you fix it? Like, bam, like 10 good
Yeah.
exercises. And it's even
Yeah.
like, oh, this kid likes soccer. So let's make them about soccer. Perfect. Or, okay, now let's make it slightly more complicated because let's mix them into a paragraph and they have to spot the errors and fix them. It's fabulous for that because it's so
Yeah.
quick and so
Right.
customized.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'd be doing if I had to like have a grammar workbook and like flip through and then I run out of problems for the kind that or I can't find a problem that's the style I'm looking for. It's fabulous for that. Like if I was teaching grammar in the building, I would be using it all the time for that.
Right.
But I don't really like a lot of my lesson plans for math are out of the box from mostly from Mathematic. I'm guessing you've heard of it. It's a good
Yeah.
resource, but
Yeah.
I'm never using it for grading. I don't think most teachers are. I'm using it for a little bit of lesson planning or a little bit of like dialoguing about like if I'm really stuck on a topic, I might ask it for some like to help me like think about a better lesson plan. And I'm not using it for any emails, partly because we've got even the like Google admin disabled the like Gmail doesn't even suggest like responses in our emails,
Right.
which I like. I think you just turned off the whole AI suite. But also like in my case, the emails I'm sending, I know I could draft them with ChatGPT, but it feels to me like it would take about as much time to get it to like understand what I want and like write it as it would take me to just write it.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it's not a painful part of my life to write emails that need to be automated. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been drawing on the golden rule when I talk to teachers about like how to both talk about their students but also approach themselves. Like we ought to think about being on the other side of any AI usage, right? So like
Mhm.
I don't want to read AI emails. Like so I'm not gonna let in which like when I see an email or anything that's like AI written in a message to me, I'm just like
Mhm.
immediately turned off. Like I'm just like I don't particularly feel invested in this relationship anymore, right? Even if
Yeah.
it's like fruitful for me in other ways, because I no longer feel like you're invested in it.
Mm.
So yeah, I figure that's a good little gut check. Is like if I were the student, would I want my paper graded? Like probably not, right? So it makes sense that you don't use it that way. The use of AI by students outside of the classroom, what does that look like? Like, have you all changed formative assessments at all since we last spoke?
Good
Um,
question. I don't know what other teachers are doing. In the ninth grade humanities class, we do almost all of the writing in class for assessments and their reflection diaries. So they write in their reflection diary almost every day, and I read those. So I get a very good sense of their voice very quickly. And I really want them to just actually put their pen on the page. I believe the 10th and 11th and 12th grade teachers are having them do writing assignments like on Google Docs and that kind of thing and research papers. I don't know what they're doing to put parameters around it. The school's policy is you cannot use AI tools unless you're explicitly given permission. I'm guessing most of the teachers are not giving permission for those kind of things. I don't know. I'm sure there's a certain amount of like stuff cheating, getting away
right.
with it. I would say at least half of our students, that might be high, but it's a lot more than I would have. It's a weirdly high amount, like buy into like you want to learn to articulate yourself. You want to
Yeah.
have your own voice. You want to be able to communicate your own thoughts and therefore like you're cheating yourself if you're cheating. Try to say it yourself, even if
Yeah.
it's work. It might not be half, but it's a good amount are like willing
Yeah.
to like do the work. We've had some issues. Like I've caught a couple of my students trying to cheat on different things. In my case, I'm sure you hear this a lot. It's like it's amazing that the student didn't think I would notice how much better the thing was they turned in than what they normally turn in. Like I somehow would believe that they wrote
Yeah.
this. I'm like kind of insulted. I'm like, how dumb do you think I am?
Yeah.
Like, at least prompt it to
Yeah.
sound dumber than this, or to make some like give it some of your work and
Right.
tell it to imitate you. Come on, like make this more convincing, please. Trick me, you know.
Right. Make
So,
this a bit more challenging.
yeah, like it's just kind of insulting. I'm trying to think what else to say about that. As far as math, I think both calculus and stats, 80% of the grade is in-class assessments that they're doing with
Right.
a pencil in front of me.
Yeah.
And I have taken to given like I wasn't doing any completion grades for homework because I know you can just take a picture and ask ChatGPT. But by and large, the students kind of figured out, especially at the AP level, that like, first of all, it's not that much of your grade anyway, and the grade really is the test. And so you really are just kind of wasting your time and being dumb if you're using ChatGPT to get the answers instead of doing it, because it's only marginally increasing your grade compared to if you just
Right.
tell me you didn't do it, and
Right.
you're gonna need to learn how to do it for the test. So occasionally I tell them like by all means use it to check your answers. And
Yeah.
like in many cases it will tutor you better than I will. It'll give you really clear instructions. So it just doesn't come up that often.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of just how the class is structured. I'm not sure what else my colleagues are doing or the trouble they're having with it. At our faculty meetings, I've tried to I'm like the guy who's always talking about it. So people always send me articles and stuff, but I'm trying to, especially for I think the older people, I want all of our colleagues to understand what it can do so that it's in the back of their mind somewhere anytime they're assigning something. Put this into Gemini and just see what it gives you so you know, like you should just have some awareness of how good these tools are so that you're not caught flat-footed, like shocked that I think especially just the ones that are like 50, 60, 70, 80, if they
Yeah.
haven't tried it, they wouldn't believe how
Right.
good
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it feels magical if you haven't actually done it yourself. I'm curious about the faith angle. Do
Mhm.
you think that plays a role, and has it played a role in how you explicitly talk about it? Because obviously that influences the culture of the school, and that can dramatically change. I mean, the culture of the school in general can dramatically change how students approach it, and that's true across the country. But I am curious how those conversations intersect with conversations about faith.
In particular, with I guess I would say the angles of faith that are the most salient. One would be integrity is a big deal. I
Yeah.
think I mean, there are plenty of secular schools that go hard on integrity too. So it's not like
Right.
unique to Christianity, but it is also a Christian principle.
Right.
So trying to help the students understand what integrity is and why it matters and being honest and why it matters.
A lot of secular schools would say it's important, but I feel like robust character education or like
Yeah.
virtue education is kind of fault, right? Like then that's what I'm curious about, like how much of this is like understood that integrity is important, because you all are a school that like is faith based, versus how much are you all doing, even like outside of the realm of technology, that like reiterates the importance of integrity, right? Because I feel like that part, like a school can put it on their mission page, they can say it
Yeah.
once a year, but like the active work that it takes to remind students or show examples or help them form like
Yeah.
the practice integrity is
Yeah.
very different.
I mean, first of all, it comes up whenever we do actually like we try to go after any plagiarism or cheating or that kind of thing, and we take it really seriously. So there'll be
Right.
they call it a disciplinary committee, and there'll be like a meeting with the dean and some other students, and you could get suspended or expelled, and that happens every year. So, and this, it's a small enough school that word gets around. So if you know somebody got caught cheating and like they got called into the dean's office, it like
Yeah.
scares you a little bit. There's, the headmaster talks to all the students before both the midterms and the finals and reminds them why cheating is a bad idea. We, as a faculty, try to be like models of like, we try not to be dishonest.
Right.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's how I learned it the most. Like my parents literally never lied to me. Like they didn't tell
Yeah.
me about Santa or something because they just thought that would
Right.
be lying. And so
Yeah.
I knew lying was like I knew you shouldn't lie because my parents just didn't lie.
Yeah. I'm curious about other faith-based reasoning as well. Like I remember in college, my like assumption professor had shared this article written by Noam Buvar, I believe, that was about the role of practice at school in like building the practice of like prayer. And that one's like really stuck with me, even when like things don't fully, like I can't, if I can't fully, if I'm feeling demotivated from something or like not seeing the point, like part of that was just like those kinds of habit building activities help us build stronger habits for things that do
Mhm.
matter, like prayer. It definitely like stuck out to me. And explicitly like uses schooling as an example of that. Like even if we can't understand why, we still got to sit and learn Latin. Like that
Mm.
kind of rigorous study, like that kind of right, like all that kind of just can be reapplied in other contexts that feel meaningful to us. But I'm curious, like when you all are like in when you're you're the Bible is part of your ninth grade humanities class, like you don't want to spark notes the Bible, right? Like, and I'm assuming that like is there buy-in from students on that, like because that feels distinctly different than not spark noting. I don't know, great expectations or something.
Yeah, although I will say that in ninth grade humanities, it's
Yeah,
not Bible study in the sense that, first of all, we
yeah,
don't require that students are Christian.
right,
Most are, and we're very clear that we're Christian. And we
right.
only hire Christians. If many of the families are not, so like every year, a
Oh,
couple of my ninth grade students are Chinese internationals, and they've never seen a Bible before. So we are trying to actually teach the Bible as a kind of like we're setting the ancient Jews in their historical context with the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians. We're comparing a little bit like other creation narratives from the ancient Near East.
okay.
And then we're also like setting Jesus in his historical context, like what's going on in the Roman Empire, who is Caesar, who is Herod the Great, who is Herod
Yeah,
Agrippa. So we're teaching the Bible a little more as a historical and literary document than as a
right,
kind of here's how you pray and here's how you do
right,
faith. We do chapel every week as well, which is more like
right,
a church service, and that's
right.
where we are singing and there's a sermon. In my class, I'm actually trying to like bother like a lot of the students are pastors' kids, and so in ninth grade
Yeah,
humanities, so like I'm actually trying to like make it not like Sunday school for them. I'm trying to like
right.
when they give me the like cliche Sunday school answers, I like poke them and like
Yeah, yeah,
we read the book of Joshua, which I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's essentially a description of the Israelites more or less exterminating other people groups in a
yeah,
kind of holy war, like celebration of Yahweh sent you to literally kill everyone, including women and
yeah,
children. And
yeah,
I'm like, I teach it very like critically, shall we say,
yeah, yeah,
which is not the way you
yeah.
learn in Sunday school. So
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. If the narrative around like reading in particular, obviously I was talking earlier about like I'm concerned about like how to get folks to appreciate the value of reading a text in a
yeah.
text that's longer than like, a caption on your Instagram post. And so I was curious if part of the motivation in that class is from faith, but it sounds like it's actually fairly disconnected. And it is a very historical lens to it. And so you're
We do want students to be able to like sit and read a book, including the Bible or other
right,
spiritual
right,
literature. And
right,
you can't grow spiritually unless you can pay attention to something for more than 2 minutes or
right,
like sits like if you can't pray for more than 5 minutes without
yeah,
checking your phone, then you won't grow spiritually.
right,
So that's true. But I also feel like even secular people know that too. So, but
right.
maybe we're just like
Yeah.
more tuned into it because we are interested in spiritual formation as well.
Yeah, I think that's like, is there more buy-in on the same things that we could all agree on when it's like from a place of faith? There's things I think like
Yeah.
that's felt differently than intellectual, like I know this is right for me, um, is very different than this is an act of faith for me. And so I was curious if that's changing like the approach or even just like how students are showing up in the classroom. You also have them from sixth grade, which I think well, it sounds like at least 80% of your students, which is another like 3 years of formative schooling that you all kind of get
Mhm.
to influence, which I'm sure is helpful. Do you notice a difference between your ninth grade students who are within the school system and are new to the school system?
Definitely. Part of it is just they can write better and read more.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they're more actually trained. Generally, they're better at math too than the ones who are incoming, especially if they're incoming from the public school system. There's a lot of like remediation we're doing with the kids that are coming from the public school system. That'd probably be the main difference.
like attention spans, all of that feel.
Yeah, and
That I guess at
more
that age
and
they're
more
all yeah,
acculturation. Like they're used to
yeah,
like you wear the uniform. They're used to
yeah,
like, yeah, you're not going to be on your phone. And also like I think in a really good way, like we don't bully people. Kids are nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Generally, right?
right,
Like
right,
I mean, compared
yeah,
to how I was in ninth grade, it's wild.
yeah,
It's like surreal sometimes when I compare
yeah.
these kids to like me in ninth grade,
Yeah.
or 12th grade for that matter. I was such a worse human than they are. So
Yeah, it's nice to hear that these things are working in some context, and I'm sure there's a lot that can be learned and reapplied in other contexts.
One other thing I'll say on the
Yeah,
kind of theological angle, and I'm actually probably going to write a paper about this. Theologically, we're more focused maybe than I think everyone kind of knows this, but relationality is so key to what it is to be human. And relationships are inherently frictiony, whereas technology is designed to eliminate friction. So like
yeah,
if you want to be in real relationship with real humans, it's
yeah,
awkward. You're gonna have conflict. You're gonna misunderstand each other. There's so many ways that there's friction, right? That is what makes life meaningful is relationship. And
yeah,
relationship is really best done face to face, like with your
right,
actual face.
right,
And so if like we have theological rooting and like that's what it is to be a human. And so it's maybe more obvious from that framework why a phone, like what Jonathan Haidt would call a phone-based childhood, is like a
yeah,
dehumanizing thing.
right,
And it's
right,
also more obvious why, like, if your parents are on their phones all the time, that's damaging, right? Because, like, we as humans, like, need connection, and connection needs, like, faces.
right.
So, topic for another time is
Yeah,
AI is going to, I would argue, very soon perfectly imitate consciousness.
oh,
Like, whether or not it is conscious,
right.
it's going
Yeah,
to
imitate.
seem
Yeah,
conscious to
yeah,
us.
yeah,
And therefore, on what basis will we try to dissuade our students from forming emotional bonds with them?
yeah,
Um, it's already like a problem.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't dated a chatbot yet, but I know some people are
yeah,
doing it, and it's just going to get
yeah,
better and better.
right.
Um, so that's like a wave that's coming that I don't think people are quite ready for.
Yeah. And I mean, there's concerns, right? There was a case of a student dying by suicide after like they fell in love with like Daenerys, like a
Mm,
version of Daenerys that was on one of the character like AI sites, and then like for some reason it ended, and the company got sued. But yeah, it is. The emotional dependency on it is a whole another angle that I just don't think like I think we're also hyper fixated on the intellectual one right now that I think it is going to be a little bit we're going to get caught a little bit off guard. And there's memes about like this might be the next like relationship thing that like Gen Alpha like comes home with, and you're like navigating like what is right and what is wrong, and like is this good for humanity or bad for humanity and all those things. And but yeah, that it is definitely on the horizon, if not already here. But I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to you
ah,
as
of
always.
course. Have a great day.
I you too. Take care.
All right, cheers.
That was Nate, speaking from a different school context than some of our other guests. The emphasis on face to face relationships and on preserving friction in human connection offers a different framework for thinking about technology and education. Not everyone teaches in a context with this level of parent buy in or institutional support for low tech approaches. But Nate's experience raises important questions about what we're optimizing for and what we might be losing in the process. Stay with us as we continue the season exploring the intersections of technology, ethics, and education. For some case studies that look at these tensions in more detail, pre-order my book, Ethical EdTech, at ethicaledtech.org. Thanks for listening to Margin of Thought. If this episode gave you something to think about, subscribe, rate, and review us. Also, share it with someone who might be asking similar questions. You can find the show notes, transcripts, and my newsletter at preten.org. Until next time, keep making space for the questions that matter.